Hey, friends, welcome to Miss V, the Storyteller podcast. Guys, I am so excited when I have guests that I know that God sent for my episodes. And so, Lyvita and I, we met, we talked, and we're like, oh my goodness. This interview is going to be so good. I know every time I come up here, I say it, but I really and truly believe that God. Now, some people slip through. It's okay, but ultimately, God sends me every person that I need. So I'm so excited today. I want to introduce you to Lyvita Brooks, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first, Larry, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity, and I just want to let your listeners know that you are real. I mean, I like talking to you, so so keep listening because she's serious. She's about sharing the gospel and making sure that people know other people's experiences
Hmm.
with Christ. And I am an author, a Bible teacher. I also am a business owner and a podcaster. My mission is to help people get the clutter out of their lives
Hmm.
so they can go and do what God's called them to do. That's what I'm about. And I do that through teaching uh, believers how to build and practice spiritual disciplines. And that's basically what I'm about.
I love that. I really love because it's so funny you said that. A friend of mine, she had to minister this past Sunday, and she sent me the um, the taping of it, and I was watching it, and it's ironic because she was talking about clutter as well, cleaning out and get rid of the stuff. So I guess that's what the Lord is trying to get all of us to do, to clean out some stuff, and not just necessarily inside of you, but your
Right.
homes, and get some stuff in order so that
Yeah.
God can move like he needs to move. Because he's like, I can't even walk in your house, you got so much stuff. Girl, clean that house up. But don't even get me started on that. But it's just amazing how you two, I was just looking at her, and then you come up and you talk about the same thing. So you guys know I'm a storyteller, and I love stories. Stories are so important to me that we not only use them in our lives, but we also use them in our business. And I think it makes such a strong connection. So what's going to happen is Lyvita is going to share a story, a personal story of hers with you. She's going to tell us some things that we need to hear and know about Lyvita and her story. So Lyvita, go ahead and share your story.
Well, my story has to do with basically my identity. And it's centered around my mother. Because my mother, she's my inspiration. She was even my competition.
Hmm.
so so let me give you I want to give everyone a little background before I actually get into the full story, because my story really begins with her. uh my mother is she was a PE teacher. Everyone loved her. They would come to her and ask for advice and prayer. uh my mother was she was the kind that she'd give you, like, if you needed food, she'd give it to you. If you needed money, she'd give it to you. um and some kind of way she still end up having money in her pocketbook. It's
Mm.
like money just finds its way into her. Okay, this is kind of person that I was living with. So this is my story. My story begins with being inspired by my mother. And one of the things that she inspired me to do was to write. She inspired me to be Lyvita, because my whole goal is never to be like my mama. It is just it's never to be like, even with all those wonderful things I said, I don't want to be like my mother. I wanted to be like me. And she was raising me to be me. But I didn't realize that when I was little. The things that I was doing, such as when I was like 6 or 7, um, I was in the backyard, never forget, in the backyard, just being a teacher, trying to get my imaginary friends to go from one grade level to the next grade level. And if they didn't, if they were bad, I gave them a speech.
Oh.
I gave them the speech,
Mhm.
and so they got better and went to the next grade. Later on, I found out when I was in my 30s that my mother and her sister had imaginary friends. And that's
Oh,
all.
wow.
And then when I was in my 20s, I mean, I've heard my mother say that she write, but it didn't click. Until my 20s, I actually saw her writing. Okay, so all of these things, they're building up. So I also remember, oh, identity. Remember I started with identity. So I remember, I know I was in elementary school. We had a fire drill, and we came back in and the teacher was scolding us because we didn't do the fire drill right. Well, while she's talking, I and some other students started laughing. Well, this teacher said, out of all the children that was laughing, she pointed her hand at me and said, go to your mother. Yeah, how could you embarrass me like that? How can you humiliate me like that? You
Wow.
know, and I'm thinking, I'm humiliating my mother. I'm definitely, everybody's gonna make fun of me, But when I got to my mother, I'm crying, boo-hooing, and she said, "You sit there, you get yourself together. Then you tell me what happened." So when she came back, I told her what happened, and she said my entire name. When your mother said your entire,
Yes.
okay, so she said my entire name correctly. and, and said to me, make sure that this doesn't happen again. It never happened again. My mama never had a problem with me in that school again. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll fast forward to my preteens. In my preteens, this is where I really began to compete with my mother. I wrote my first book. I wrote my first book, and I was just so excited because I self-published. All right, I don't know, at 12 years old, I didn't know anything about self-publishing. But I wrote my first book. I stapled that bad boy together. I wrote everything on line paper, college line paper. I had a dedication, title page, cover page, where you color it in and you
Mhm.
draw it with your pen and you staple it. That was my book. And I showed that off to my mother. I was just, excited. And she smiled. She said something. I can't remember what she said because it wasn't something like, "Oh, you did something that I didn't do," or it wasn't anything like that. But then when we started like going out, my cousins and I, we started going out and experiencing life, and my mother would always ask us questions to make us think first
Mhm.
before we do. In preteen, you don't want to think.
Yeah.
High school, you do not want to think. You want to do. Okay, so we had problems like that because when we went to one party, and she said, "Well, have you ever been to a party in that area before?" Who cares? So anyway, I wish I had listened to it because it was the worst party I had. It was my
Oh my
first party
God.
in Philadelphia. It was like she was right. Okay, so then I got my first job. My first job was an elementary school teacher. Oh, let me tell you this part. Because, sometimes, Valeria, we as young adults think we know it all, right?
Mhm.
So I had to make a decision about what I wanted to do. Now I know I wanted to go into education. I just knew that, but
Mhm.
I didn't know where. So I'm just sitting down and minding my business. I said, Mom, what should I major in? With no thought. Didn't even look up in elementary. So I filled it out. It was the best thing I ever did.
Wow.
The best thing So as an elementary school teacher now, I'm thinking, because I'm competing, my goal is to make more money than my mother.
Oh, wow.
So I became a talented and gifted coordinator. I made more money than my mother. It was the most exciting thing. So, so of course I let her know, and she just smiled, and whatever she did from there, it never said, or she never said, "You finally did something better than me." She just smiled and grinned, and I'm pretty sure she was happy that her daughter, had accomplished something great, But to me, it was like, hold up. All I get is a smile. No, but anyway, once that happened, then the more I proceeded in my career in education, because I retired as a principal, the more the more I progressed, the closer we got,
Oh.
because we both fell in love with children and education.
Mhm.
And this just made our communication even better. So when I came into my 50s, I started becoming more of a caregiver to my mother.
Mhm.
So when she passed in 2017, it was like my whole world, stopped. It was like, it's like you know, I even remember hearing the Lord say to me in the elevator, "I'm taking my daughter home."
Mm.
How could you do that to me, Lord? I'm an only child. How can you take my
Yeah.
yeah. but God put people in your life to help you through. And he's always done that. And now that my mother has gone home to be with the Lord, Lyvita is finding out so much about Lyvita.
Yeah.
Yes, mom was my inspiration and my competition, but she was the one God placed in my life to shape and mold to be my. I'm trying to think of the scripture. She sharpens me as iron.
Iron
What's
sharpens
the scripture?
Sean. Iron
Iron
sharpens.
sharpens iron. So she was the one to do that. And when I think about it, I said, well, God, you want us to be more like Christ. So where am I kicking against trying to be like Christ? Because I was doing it with my mother, but it was obviously changing me into whom I'm supposed to be and growing me and building me.
Yeah.
But I still want to know, the Lord, where am I kicking or fighting against being like Christ? Because even in the fight, it gives me the opportunity to spend time with the Lord. Because I just love, I'm an only child. I love being by myself. I love spending time with the Lord. That's my jam, as they say. Okay. So so when I spend time with the Lord, just focusing on that a lot, the Lord just shares a lot with me about who I am. What am I supposed to be doing? I learn about who God is. I learn that I'm hidden in Christ, and I learned about me. So my identity, yes, it started off with God putting all these people together to make sure that I came through the right person
Mhm.
to be here, which is true for everybody.
Yes.
And then he let me know that I am hid. I'm hid in him. All I had to do is open up his word.
Mhm.
Just open up, and I'm going to find out not only about him, but about me.
I love
Oh,
that. I
oh.
love the way God works. I am sitting here listening and I'm thinking about my journey. And I'm like, God is so amazing. God knows exactly what he's doing, and he doesn't make mistakes. And I'll share a little bit of my story because it's kind of close to yours. When I think I was in the fourth grade. Yes, it was a fourth grade. My parents separated. They were having issues for a while. And so they finally separated. My mother, she moved out. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult for me because I'm an introvert and I was very quiet. By that time, I had stopped really talking. I kept to myself a lot. It's four of us. I have two. I have an older brother, older sister, and then a younger brother. But they were all outgoing. I was the one that was an introvert. And I remember my mom. She found this house that was on the lake, and it was the first time. I mean, when I was growing up, we had a house and we had this huge backyard, and we were used to, being just a one love, just a one house with nobody connected, not like an apartment, but an actual house. So we used to having a backyard and all this. But when she first separated from my dad, we moved into an apartment. So that was like, what is this? We don't have a backyard. This is an apartment. It was on the second floor. It was a whole different experience for us because we were used to the freedom. And we also lived in a neighborhood where we had relatives. So we could just run over somebody's house and run through the neighborhood, and now we're stuck in an apartment. So I don't know what happened, but we end up eventually moving to a house. And we were some happy people. Let me tell you, we were some happy children. We had a backyard back. You know, it was like the bomb. And in the back of the house, there was a screened in porch. And so it was like a whole nother room. You walk out and it was screened in and you could see out on the lake. Well, that became my classroom. Like I said, I was an introvert. And so my siblings would go outside and play, and I would stay inside and I would bring papers to class. And I would go on the back porch, and that was my classroom. And I taught all my students. And what
Mm.
I didn't know was that's what God was preparing me to do to eventually be a teacher. And I don't remember, once we left there, I don't remember really having imaginary friends, but I know I had a classroom full of students that I would teach. I mean, I would hand out papers, I would grade papers, I would give smiley
Yes.
faces, all of that. Fast forward, God led me to volunteer at a school. And I started to volunteer there. And the next thing I know, I became a teacher of preschool, and then I moved up. And that's what God was doing. But one of the things that you said that I really learned how to do was I use discipline as teachable moments. What I mean, when my kids would act up, I wasn't the normal teacher. My parents really loved my style. So we had a situation. I'll give you an example of the type of teacher that I was. If someone got in trouble in the classroom, I use it as a teachable moment, not to embarrass the child, but to help everyone think about it. So one of my students got in trouble, and I didn't make a big deal out of it. But when we had circle time, I said to the kids, I said, I have a question. If you were to get in trouble at school, what would your parents do? And everybody raised their hand and they were saying, different things. And I said to them, I really want you to think about what you're saying. So you already know that if you get in trouble in school, you already know that something is going to happen to you. So when you do get in trouble, you already know. And so the kids was like, oh, and that I had kindergartners, and they was like, hmm. So when you get in trouble and your mom or your dad picks you up and I have a conversation with them, when you get in the car, you already know what's going to happen. So, suggestion, let's think about what we're going to do before we do it because we already know. And I kept driving the word already because you already know. What I wasn't prepared for was one of my students said to me, "Oh, if I get in trouble, my granny's gonna kill me." I said, I said, "Oh Lord." I said, "Come here, baby." I said, I don't think that that she's gonna physically kill you." I said, I think she may have just said that out of frustration of being mad or upset about something. She said, "Oh no," she told me. She said, "If I get in trouble one more time, she's going to kill me." So I had to, because I wasn't prepared for that. I was prepared for, I'm going to get on punishment. I'm going to get this taken away from me. I might get a spanking, those regular normal things.
Right.
My mom's going to yell at me. She's going to tell my dad. I wasn't prepared for, "I'm going to kill you."
It really killed you.
So I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, please don't get into trouble. And I will talk to, your parent about, using the word kill, because it's not a good word and we don't want to use it." And what I was trying to do, put the fire out, because I knew kids, they would go home and say, "Such and such said that she gonna kill her. I said that you was gonna yell at me, but she said she gonna kill me." So I had to put that down. But I learned how to, because of the way that I was raised, like you, I wanted to be the opposite. Now, yours was the opposite in a different way than mine. Mine was the opposite, as in, I want to do it a better way. I wanted to, to do it this way, because the way some people in my house did it was not my way of doing things. So that's what I did. But I really learned about that. And as you were talking, I thought about it. I was like, God was preparing me to be a teacher. And then I became a teacher. I taught my kids. And then once I stopped doing that, God is now using me, to teach people how to use their stories and tell their stories. So he had his hand the entire time. Now, that's my story, but I have a question about you and your story. It sounds like, and let me know if I'm right or wrong, that you were the one that made the competition between your mother, because it doesn't seem like your mother ever was in competition with you. It was always you who was in competition with her. So that when she didn't respond the way that you thought she should, you were disappointed. Is that correct?
That is so correct. I was the only one, and I had before she passed, we talked about it. And she was just looking at me and she just grinned and she said, "I know, I know." It's like,
So she knew.
yes, she
I
knew,
love it.
she knew, but she wasn't in competition to me. She said, "That's just you. That's your personality." Okay, well, she not here now, so who I'm competing against? So,
Wow. So are you competing against yourself? Because I know that was something that I used to do. Oh my God. And maybe something about introverts, or again, I'm not an only child, but I felt like I was, because I was so different. And God had a real sense of humor. I was the only one out of the four of us came into the world a fluffy child. Everybody else was sticks and skinny. So I was definitely different than my
oh,
siblings.
wow.
I can't Everybody else was skinny. I was the only one that came into the world. I'm number three, and I came in the world fluffy. And I'm like, I got a sense of humor. But
Yeah, he does. He
but
does. Seriously,
yeah,
he does.
but anyway, I used to compete with myself, meaning that if I did something good, the next time I did something, I wanted to do it better. So I would constantly compete against myself. So do you find yourself competing against yourself?
Now, see, I don't see it as competing against myself. I see it as I'm hard on myself. But I like
Okay.
how you said it. I'm gonna have to change that self-talk because I am. If I succeed, I'm happy. If I don't succeed, I'm sitting down here looking. Okay, so what happened? What? How did it go? Okay, so where was the problem? Okay, oh, right here. Okay, so now we got to figure out how to solve this so I can do it better next time.
Yeah.
So I like how you said
Yeah,
it.
I did. I used to
From
do it
kid
all the
against
time, and especially because, like I was sharing a little bit. I didn't talk a lot. I was very quiet. I lost my voice. I didn't talk because I didn't. Well, to keep me out of trouble. But as I got older, that kind of changed, and then I started like, okay, I'm gonna do that better. Ooh, you said that I can't do that. Oh, I can do that. I'm going to show you I can do it. So I was competing against myself and what other people said. But then I will say this, it got to a point where it was really bad because if I couldn't, I was so hard on myself, just like you said. I was so hard on myself. And I think that kind of messed with my self-esteem
Mhm.
because I started to tear down my self-esteem. I'm already not talking. And now my self-esteem is being because of the world and myself. So I had to redo that. And I had to like rethink about that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm about to sneeze. My allergies are on 10, you guys. I am so sorry. I keep my eyes are running, my nose. I'm telling you. But
Mm.
with you and your mom, did you ever at one point ever get upset or mad with her because she didn't respond or react the way you thought she should, especially when you talked about the part when you making more money than her? When you
No,
finally made
I did, I my mother, she's so calm until I couldn't get upset with her on that.
okay.
Uh, the only time it's like this. I'm the one who did a whole lot of talking. I'm the one who can quickly get angry. Okay, but if you have a mother that's calm, you getting angry is a it's like you fighting against the wall. So there's really no need to get angry. So you kind of hold that in and you wait for those moments when you can say, that didn't work. So she isn't as perfect as I thought she was. You know,
Oh,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
I like
or
that.
or hmm, she thought she knew what so and so was gonna say. And they didn't say that. Hmm. So it's like I got enjoyment out of that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's weird, you know, it's weird. But one of the things you were saying is that you stop talking at a certain age. I remember as a little girl, I would, I mean, when I say I talked, if I wanted to say something, I was going to say it. It wasn't well filtered,
Oh,
but
okay.
I said it.
Okay.
So I remember some man came into the house and I didn't like him. So I can't remember what I sat on the steps and told that man off. I embarrassed that man so bad he walked out of the house.
Oh my
My
God. Yeah,
mother,
we were opposite.
you know, so my mother came and we had a conversation.
Mm.
And that's when I realized that, oh, that wasn't okay, that wasn't right, you
Mhm.
know. And then when I accepted Christ, that's one of the things that he was working on. But I took it to be, don't talk, don't talk a lot, just
Oh,
just answer questions, just uh I became more thoughtful about what I was saying.
okay.
So stuttering started.
Oh
And
my.
even now, when I talk, I have to stop myself from thinking and just speak. Just
Yeah.
speak. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing because you started to lose your voice later. I lost mine earlier and I got it
Right.
back later. But in both situations with both of us, it sounds like once we got there, you just have to learn how to season your words or
Right.
learn how to use your voice in a positive way. Even if, like you said, you have to pause. I have to do the
Mhm.
same thing and take a okay, and
Yeah.
then go ahead and speak what I need to say. But I have
Yeah.
another question. What type of writer was your mother? You said she started writing this. Did she write books or something, or was it for school? Um,
No, it was her journal.
oh,
She she
journaling.
was she was a poet.
Oh, wow.
She liked poetry. She would write her reflections. That's the sort of thing she wrote.
Okay. So when you noticed that your mom was writing and you actually saw her writing, did that like perk something up in you? And you said, well, you were already in competition yourself. So I'm sure that's probably led to that first book at 12. Because, oh, she's writing her journal. Oh, she's writing poems. I'm going to write a book. Is that correct? Is that was that your thinking?
Listen, in the book that I wrote the very poem that is a competition poem. I wrote it. Mom was sitting in the chair, and I was I was laying on the couch, and she was just writing up a storm. And you know how you get this inspiration. Oh, I'm gonna go run and get my journal. But instead, I just sat there and watched her write. So I actually turned that into a flash fiction. It's real short, flash fiction, a story, and I'll put it in a book. But yes, yeah.
Wow. No, I know
Yes.
you have books and everything. So which was I know that was your first book, but the first book that you actually published, the one that you was 12, I know you published yourself. But the other one, what was the first one? Was it inspired by your mom or something different?
No, the first one I actually self published is called A Teacher's Year Timer. And that one was because I'm an organizer.
Okay.
So it was developed to help teachers organize their life. Was it inspired by mom? I'm not quite sure. Because see, we were both in education. We enjoyed that. And I'm thinking like that was a gift way back then. And I hadn't connected the two just yet until you said that. But that's yeah, that
Is
gift was.
there a book that was inspired by your mom?
Oh, the last one.
Okay.
This
And
one that I did. Yeah.
okay, and what's that book? What's the name of that book? The one that was inspired by your mom? Because I'm loving your mom. I love the fact that her spirit, she reminds me so much of one of my aunties. She was the same way. It was just the way that she dealt with me and handled me with like so much love and compassion, even when I didn't do things correctly or whatever. It was the way she handled it. And I love it. So
Yeah.
she reminds me of her as you were talking. I'm like, oh my God, she just reminds me of her. So the book, how were you inspired by your mom to write this book? The
Uh,
book that what's the name of it?
it's called Nuggets for Thought, a
Okay.
mother and daughter's collection of poems and reflections and short stories about the life they see.
Okay.
So this was it was originally going to be called Desiree because I was trying to put my short stories in and use her poems as the front runner to the story.
Okay.
That didn't come out. So the Lord kept, it's like everything was just going on. So Lord, it was like, get this out because I promised her. That's the other thing. I promised my mother back in my 30s that someday I was going to publish her writings. And I didn't even have a publishing company then.
Okay.
So now I had a publishing company. And I started that in my 40s. But this, I finally, we finally came to a point where I just took all of mom's poems and reflection, picked the best ones with the help of my cousin, and put them together in a book. And it wasn't enough. So I added mine along with it.
Okay.
But the editor said, you're talking about your mother. So why don't you start with telling us about her?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that was the hardest thing to do. I mean, I was crying through it, trying to,
Mm.
and it's like, why is this hard? It shouldn't be hard. so I finally did that, and the book came out. It can't, Larry. This is the funny part, and I just want your listeners to know that you can write a book and think that everybody's going to love it. But guess what part of the book my family ran to first?
Your mom's part,
Yeah,
her part.
her
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
and her friends. Now, when I talk to them, rarely do they talk about the part that I wrote or edited. All they talk about is the introduction when I talk about her and her part.
But you know what? I can honestly see why, because you have other writings out there. She's no longer with us, so they're probably curious as to her poems, and and then they look at you as a person, and they was like, "Oh my God, I can see her. I can see." They looking at you and see your mother in you, in your writings and all that. So they were curious. I would be honest. I probably would go to see what Mama wrote. And then I'll circle back and like, okay, well, let me go ahead because it is her book. Let me go back and see what you said. But I would probably, and it's nothing wrong with that. I think it's such a great legacy for your
Yeah,
mom
yeah, it
to
is.
see it. Now it's out into the world, so her name will always be in the forefront.
Mhm.
So you did a wonderful thing. She's probably in heaven looking down at you, smiling now. It's like, that's my girl. That's my girl. She did that. And then she's probably laughing because if it's competition, she's probably laughing and she said, "Oh, when I was alive, she was in competition with me. Now that I'm gone on to glory, now I win because
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
want to read about
right,
mine and
right.
nobody wants to read about yours. So your
Yes,
mama got the last laugh."
yeah, you know what I'm saying, Blair? It's like she still won because her stuff is greater in the book than mine. It's like, what?
Again, you have to love God. He has such a great sense of
Yes,
humor
yes,
because
yes.
your mom is like, "Oh, I'm gonna have the last laugh. I'm gonna let you publish the book. I'm gonna let you all my poems, and then all the people gonna go to find love
Yes,
it."
I'm telling you.
So before I'm going to give you opportunity, I want you to tell everyone where they can get the book from because I'm sure they're curious. I know people want to go now and get the book so they can read what your mama wrote. But I have a question that I ask. When you look back over it, what is a lesson that you learned from everything? Like when you shared your story, when you look back, what did you learn? Like what would be something key that you learned from your mom when you look back over all of that we just talked about?
Can I give you two things?
Sure. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
one is that I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
Mm.
And the second is that keep your promises, and not just to the other person, but also to yourself.
For yourself. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is important, especially when you say you're going to do something, be a woman or man of
Yeah.
your word. Love
Yes.
it. So please share with us and tell us where we can find, your books and all that. I have listeners that they just listen it, so they don't look at it, so they wouldn't be able to like see the book up. So
Right.
just tell
Right.
us verbally where we can find you and buy the books and all that.
Okay. You can go to LyvitaBrooks.com, and I have a store on my website. You can pick it up there, or you can go to Amazon, and it's also on Ingram Sprock. So that means you can go to Barnes and Nobles, BAM, um, to purchase it there. You can also get it at the library because it's everywhere.
Oh,
And
okay.
and the website is LYVITABROKS.com. My
Okay.
name is spelled kind of interesting. So
Yeah. Okay, well, I will make sure that I have all of that information down in the description and the notes so that you will be able to click on. And on your website, it has all your books, not just the new one. It has all your books,
all of
just in case we were curious, we want to go
yeah.
through your library and we want to support you. So if you all are out there and you want to read her mother's stuff and hers, please go to her website. Like Christmas will be coming up, and it would be great books and stuff. What is it? Stocking stuffers. It would be
Yes.
great to give to someone, because I think I love that it's a legacy to your mom. It's like a homage to her, saying, your life and all your writings is now for the world to see. So I love it. And thank you so much, Lyvita, for being here and for being
Thank
just
you.
such a light, having a great personality and just sharing about you and your mom. So thank you.
Hey, this was a blessing. This really was a blessing. So thanks for, you know, I, I made it without crying. Talking about my mother. So praise God. Praise God. And I pray that your listeners really received a blessing from this, because mothers, no matter how good or bad, they still have an impact
Hmm.
on our identity. It's how we perceive them and how we take that information and and let it sharpen us or either hurt us.
Yeah.
And my suggestion is that you use it to help you grow.
Yes. Amen.